Welcome back to Sunday Vibes, one and all. We're back in the pub, me, Chris and Pat, to answer your burning questions. It's hay fever season. Me and Hamill are very clogged up.
Sponge. I'm like a sponge.
Yeah, not pretty scenes, but the first question has been sent in by Donald99. He says, if Liverpool or Man City don't win the league this year, will they be the best side to miss out in Premier League history?
I mean, the very boring top-line answer is yes. As in 18 more points than Fergie's treble winners, more points than Arsenal's Invincibles, more points than Ancelotti's double winners. Had they not resurrected their Champions League campaign, you're looking at one of the biggest travesties in modern history in terms of accumulating feasibly 97 points if they win their last match. Obviously, Sunday Vibes will go live before this all unfurls. 97 points, no trophy would be awful, but I think we're losing a little bit of perspective here because they've only lost one game, because they've only dropped 6 points, against teams from outside of the Big Six, in terms of the progress they have made this campaign. So already 19 more points better off than they were this time last year. I think they've only scored 3 more goals. I mean, to be able to sustain the attack from last year, absolutely incredible. Obviously, Mo Salah's not hit quite the same heights. He's still been extremely prolific, but Sadio Mane helping out in that regard. First time he's got over, 13, 14 goals in a league campaign. Bobby Firmino's slipped by the wayside a little bit, only owing to injuries and whatnot, but people have been able to step in ably in his absence. The defence has really tightened up. I think they've conceded 22 less goals or something ridiculous, and as much credit as we give to Van Dijk, Alisson has made a huge impact in that regard. So the progress is there, the platform is there, they're probably overachieved, and to be pushing this Manchester City side, who have been the best team for me in the league this campaign, right to the final day, is some achievement. Of course, that will come of no recompense to crestfallen Liverpool fans if they lose the league, but there's only one other side that can win it apart from Manchester City next season, and it's Liverpool. And they're a couple of additions away. We're not going to talk about transfers because we talked about transfers to death last week, didn't we? They're a couple of additions away from levelling Manchester City. But I think there's probably more interesting conversations to be had around sort of Europe as well, and what other teams have underachieved and what other managers can impact big sides in the same way that Jurgen Klopp has with a 2-3 year plan. So I don't know if you had anything else to say about Liverpool, but we're going to hopscotch around Europe, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you in the sense that it feels like, unless something crazy happens on the last day of the season, Liverpool's Premier League year has kind of been a glorious failure. Like they've really, really improved. They've shown they're one of the best sides ever to play in the Premier League. And I think I saw something that said, like, in the, whatever it is, 120-year history of the English top flight, their points tally would have been enough to win the league in all but 2 seasons. And those 2 seasons were this season and last year.
Yeah,
which is absolutely nuts.
16 less goals, by the way, not 22. Sorry, hay fever.
Wow,
hay
fever brain. But I think actually Germany has had some clubs this season get a little bit unlucky. Like, obviously not really with the title. I think Dortmund actually have been quite fortunate to be in it for as long as they have. Bayern underperformed, and that's what made it a race for so long. But I thought Hoffenheim have actually had an incredible season.
Yeah.
Like, Hoffenheim, they have the best attack in the league pretty much. They take about 18 shots a game. And when you look at their numbers, Hoffenheim are basically the attacking version of Atletico Madrid, where I always felt I would maybe not buy a defender from Atletico Madrid because the way Simeone coaches supercharges those guys and gets the most out of them. Hoffenheim, I feel like, do the same with attackers. Like last season, they got something like 17 goals and assists in the league out of Mark Uth. He went on a free to Schalke and he's got 2 goals and 1 assist in the league this year.
Yeah.
Kramaric, while he's been there, has got a goal or assist every game.
State of him at Leicester.
Absolute way of fair. He was only there for about 10 games, but he's been incredible since he went to Germany. And this season, Ishak Belfodil, who was playing for Standard Liège 2 seasons ago, was playing in, I think the UAE last year. Yeah. This season he's got 15 goals in the Bundesliga.
Yeah, not an out-and-out striker either, like a second striker, attacking midfielder.
What right does he have to be doing that? So I think that what Nagelsmann has done there is truly incredible, and it makes me think that Leipzig could be could be frightening next season. Actually, Leipzig as well probably deserve to be in this conversation. Like also, like now they've basically wrapped up a Champions League place. But I think in another campaign, if they'd got, rather than getting unlucky, if they'd got a little bit lucky, then they could easily have been challenging for the title because their attack's been fantastic.
This campaign for RB is kind of reminiscent of the last couple for Atalanta, right, in Serie A, and they've put up great numbers, underlying numbers. I think in Germany, they're the second best attacking and defensive side in terms of shots generated, shots conceded. Dortmund have been riding the luck in both regards. So I'd be inclined to agree with that. Interesting rumours on the grapevine this morning. Of course, we filmed this on Thursday, Joe. Just to take a step away from the Bundesliga. Not a massive one, because apparently Max Allegri, his time at Juve might be up. I've heard that PSG is sort of sniffing around him as well, given his pedigree in the Champions League, which would mean Thomas Tuchel's reign comes to an end. Despite amassing one of the best points totals that PSG have had in recent memory, and actually kind of bringing a style of football that really suits that squad to the fore, which ponders the question: where is some of this top managerial talent going to go next campaign, and will it tip these sides, into glory in the same way that Jurgen Klopp might have with Liverpool?
Max Allegri is a real tough one. I remember talking about on the podcast a few weeks ago, Max Allegri being a decent candidate for a Barcelona. I got a bit of backlash from Barcelona fans who are very precious, obviously, about their style of football.
More so now that Valverde is...
I think
they play such un-Barcelona football these days.
But it feels like they would rather play in a Barcelona way and fail than succeed and play a way that Valverde has played. And I think if that's the case, maybe Allegri wouldn't work, because Allegri is going to come in, he's going to be very pragmatic, he's going to be very successful, particularly on a domestic scale. You can almost guarantee league and cups with Allegri, but not guarantee European success necessarily.
Bit of like a super Valverde, don't you think? In that he has sacrificed his attack to shore up his defence at various points across the course of the season as well. Hence, Ronaldo, maybe his goal total being slightly underwhelming. I mean, he's still pretty much Juventus' attack in full, isn't he? Despite having a very, very talented supporting cast. But first of all, do you think Valverde right to sack him at this point? Has he got to go after that 4-0 demise?
From a Barcelona fan's perspective, I think you move him on. I think I personally don't think he should be sacked. I think to win the league this season, to fall, not particularly well, but to arguably the second best team in world football right now, behind Manchester City and Liverpool, is no disgrace. I know that the performance on the day was arguably a disgrace, but still it is Liverpool. He's going to win. Did he win the Copa del Rey?
The final hasn't happened.
Yet. So he's in the Copa del Rey final. He's won La Liga. Last season he was one game away from going invincible. I think if he hadn't have bottled it against Liverpool, this conversation wouldn't even be there wouldn't even be breaths of this conversation.
I suppose people's counter to that is he's done so in an era or in a 2-year period where the rest of the teams in Spain have fallen by the wayside. Like the competition is significantly weaker. So how much of that is Valverde's doing, and how much it is not? I know you can only beat the teams that are in front of you, but how much of that can you contribute to not having an able competitor? I
think it's a mix of both, right? Like, I think that Barcelona have been solid and consistent, particularly in La Liga last season. And also, you've got to think, if you're the Barcelona board, who is buying Frankie de Jong and Matthias de Ligt if Valverde's not there next season? We've talked about this in the past. Was Ousmane Dembele his signing? Was Philippe Coutinho his signing? Or were they given to him and said, you are going to use these players?
This is my thing with Barcelona at the minute, right? Like, just shades of Manchester United and PSG. Like, they're just assembling a squad that doesn't fit any one given style. They've got a gluttony of midfielders. Like, if Valverde does go, then who comes in that matches the current skill set in the squad? Like, I just feel like there's
a few really interesting candidates.
There's no one strong voice when it comes to transfers.
For instance,
at Barcelona.
If you take Coutinho out, though, I think their transfers make a lot more sense. Like, I think Coutinho is really the odd one out, because all the other transfers I think are
Prince Boateng,
perfectly set. Yeah, well, that's weird, but like the others are kind of perfectly sensible, really. Like, and I feel like could fit into pretty much any system.
I do think though there are a few interesting candidates, and it's going to be sort of like a little bit like a merry-go-round. If Allegri does leave and goes to PSG, let's say that Barcelona don't want him, I think Tuchel would be a great candidate to fill in
it'd be really
for Valverde.
fun.
He'd definitely give an
play
identity
Barca
to the
football,
squad, and he'll definitely give them a tactical blueprint to play by that is probably more aligned with the classic Barca way than an Allegri. So that could be a really exciting move, but I still think that Allegri is the right man for Barcelona to take them to the next level. And I think he would do some really interesting things with this particularly young midfield of Arthur, Frenkie de Jong, in maybe a double pivot in a 4-2-3-1 and move away from that 4-3-3. That could be quite exciting. I don't know whether he has got the bottle, I think, Allegri, to come in and go, okay, Busquets, you're being moved to a rotation role. Luis Suarez, you're being moved to a rotation role.
He's also got an excellent reputation for elongating players' careers as well, hasn't he? So he might just use Busquets a little bit more sparingly. Busquets still has a bit to offer. I mean, the way that Jordan Henderson and Fabinho and Van Adam completely overran the Barcelona midfield would suggest that as a physical dynamic, like Busquets, Rakitic, Vidal, can't compete with like the hyper, pressing, physically demanding sides in Europe. No doubt they'll still be able to do that in La Liga to a certain extent. But if I'm Frenkie de Jong's agent, I'm trying to renegotiate contractual terms, because my God, do they need someone like him in that midfield at the moment.
Yeah, I mean that's going to be exciting.
I think the Vidal sign is still puzzling.
The Ligt
I don't know though. He's the only one who was embarrassing, I thought.
The De Ligt transfer now seems like it's getting a little bit rocky. I've read a few reports this week by Sport Witness, who are actually a really good website. About 80% of the time, they basically break down foreign news and follow transfer trails to see whether or not there's any legitimacy to it. And they had an article about Matthias de Ligt and how Barcelona are effectively I think they were very close to agreeing a deal before the Juventus game. Then when Ajax beat Juventus, the league's team came back and went, we want improved terms on this. Barca went, I'm not too sure. And now it's kind of got to the stage where Barcelona aren't sure that they can afford the improved terms with Philippe Coutinho in the books. So they need to offload Philippe Coutinho to guarantee Matthias de Ligt's funds being available. And I think the trouble is the options for Philippe Coutinho, particularly with Chelsea's ban now being upheld, are getting narrower by the day.
Yeah, I don't know where he goes really, unless one of the Italian side pulls some money.
The other chat I heard was that Di Maria might leave PSG this summer, and if Di Maria leaves PSG, I think Coutinho could be a fun player for PSG to sign and come and play in that left-hand side.
But on the other hand, I feel like they've got so many areas to deal with. Like they need to deal with the fullbacks primarily. But I mean, I don't know. Like if Barcelona have say limited money to do the rest of the summer, then I'd probably stick with the defenders I have, because I'd be thinking about a forward. But it looks like Jovic is going to go to Real Madrid. That's a problem for me, because this year, more than actually any season I've ever seen them since he started there, they have been super reliant on Messi.
Yeah.
This has been the Messi season. Messi has done everything for them this season.
It's the 6th season he scored 50 goals. And to be able to score 50 goals when you're or 32, or to need to score 50 goals, more to the point, is alarming, isn't it?
Yeah, I think in previous years, it hasn't been as much of a problem because he scored a load of goals, but so has Suarez and so had Neymar at a certain stage. Now, Ousmane Dembele isn't starting in their biggest games quite often. Suarez is clearly in physical decline, as good as he still is. Malcolm is going to be sold. Paco has left. So they're at the point where they're bringing in Kevin Prince Boateng on a free in January, or on a loan in January, and that to me feels like a much bigger problem than swapping, say, Umtiti for De Ligt.
Yeah, because the trouble is I was saying this on the stream last night, to get an actual 9 or 10 that could replace Luis Suarez, names mentioned along the lines of Luka Jovic or Paulo Dybala, you are paying an incredible amount, around 100 million euros,
I think
and that's can't happen if you're also spending 100 on De Ligt.
Yeah, I think they're probably thinking that we'll get another year out of Suarez. His numbers are about 25% down on where they were this time last year, which is strong. That suggests kind of a terminal decline. So I think they're hoping to get one more year out of Luis Suarez and then readdress the number 9 situation then, because there's more pressing needs with De Ligt. But I think...
But is there? Because their defence is pretty solid. Umtiti's there, Longlay's there, still got Piqué.
Yeah, given that they're not buying a left back, which is a problem position for them.
I feel like because they're pursuing De Ligt, do they just think that Umtiti is physically spent? Like, he's not really part of the conversation when it comes to bringing in De Ligt, is it? It's quite alarming. And I know that Edu has joined Arsenal as sporting director, hasn't he? And he's made Umtiti he's made one of Umtiti one of his kind of prominent targets, which would suggest that Barcelona are probably willing to entertain offers. So I'm almost taking him out of the equation when it comes to their squad come the start of the season.
Last season, we were talking about him being up there with the best defenders.
He was. They were so dependent on him last season.
But I think they've fallen out to an extent. Like they fell out over how he was going to be rehabilitated. So maybe
he refused surgery.
So it's hard. Well, yeah, and he had different treatment. I don't know whether, and so it's hard to tell whether they've decided this is a physical issue or you just don't fit here anymore. But it's weird to me as well that we're not hearing much from them on the left back front, because Jordi Alba, they had to re-sign to a contract this season. He held them to ransom. Like, they gave him pretty much everything he demanded. This is a fullback now in his 30s, which is a problem at the top level. And as good as he's been in La Liga this season, he has been fantastic. Like, they need to think about the future of that position. They still are chopping and changing at right back.
Yeah.
Like, and yet they're thinking like, oh, you know, we don't particularly like Umtiti right now. How do we get someone in? And don't get me wrong, De Ligt is a special talent. But it just seems very weird to me to prioritise that position.
Yeah.
I probably, like, it's difficult if you can't move Coutinho on, but this is the problem with building a squad, like, in a haphazard way. If I were them, I'd probably have tried to get Rabiot, and I probably would have gone big for a left back and a forward. Yeah,
just feels totally weird, the Ligt move. And now Van der Sar, after last night's loss to Tottenham, came out and said, he's going to leave in the next few weeks. I believe it will be to either England or Spain. I didn't even see English clubs being in the picture 2 weeks ago. Weren't even being mentioned. It was done to Barcelona. Now suddenly we're hearing England.
To be fair, that might just be like, let's just get the price up.
Pep's had his fingers burnt a couple of times. Hasn't he missed out on a couple of big acquisitions? Are they going to go in big for him? Otamendi, company coming to the end of their tenure at Manchester City.
He's going to prioritise a midfielder.
It could be, it could be pretty feasible. I mean, like a CDM, a Fernandinho replacement is much more important. But
it seems like Bruno Fernandes is done.
Yeah, Bruno Fernandes.
Yeah, 55 million.
He's an attacking.
Who is an attacking midfielder? Come second striker this campaign. One of only 2 midfielders to score over 30 goals in the modern era.
We were talking about Bruno last night on the stream. We're saying, do you think he's going to be the Ilkay Gundogan replacement, and Ilkay's going to go, and he's going to play a slightly more reserved role at City? Or do you think Pep's going to do a madness and transform him into where does he fit at 55 million euros, given Mahrez can't get a game and neither can Phil Foden?
I think that signals the end of Mahrez. It's not great for Phil Foden either, because Bruno Fernandes will want to play down the centre, right?
And but it's weird though. Like, the fact that they've bought him this season implies that their attention has been drawn by his goal and assist output. Because actually his output was great before. Like, he always had really good defensive numbers and really good ball progression numbers when he was in Italy, before he went back to Portugal. And the fact that nobody was really looking at him then, but now they are after he's put up big goal and assist numbers, makes me think, well, why buy him just to convert him back into a deeper midfielder? That seems like a strange move to me.
Yeah.
Unless just the goals made them look at him and then they drew. I don't know. I find it really strange. But like, what Pep does with a midfield, I think is extremely unpredictable. I can't imagine Fernandes as a Fernandinho replacement, basically.
No, I can't.
It's more feasible that it becomes like a slightly more attack-minded Gundogan. So
he plays with Rodri,
a fluid number 8, and Rodri is that Fernandinho replacement.
And if those two come in, then I really don't see him spending 100 million on the Ligt.
On the Ligt. I mean, so Liverpool are the only potential.
Well, they're going to make some money
in England, aren't they? I mean,
Liverpool, big time.
And we've seen in recent times that they're not scared to splash the cash, so that's kind of very feasible. But going back to, in order for Barcelona to bring in, they need to sell Philippe Coutinho. I think one of the most troubling things for Barcelona is if James Rodriguez is on the market for 60, 70 million euros.
Not even that.
Who's coming in for 100 million when it comes to Philippe Coutinho?
Yeah, no one. They've got the Alexis Sanchez dilemma. You just can't shift his wage. He'll be on an absolute wedge there as well at Barcelona in terms of wages.
Yeah.
His wages will be obscene. It's going to cost an obscene amount of money to get him out of the club.
But actually, he's improved pretty dramatically. Like, his numbers towards the end of the season, Coutinho. He looks like he has a place on that side, on the left-hand side.
If he was a starting 10 for a club in the Champions League, he'd be incredible.
Yeah. Well, he plays off the left, doesn't he? He's put a really good numbers just off the left, and when Barcelona are in a defensive shape, it is 4-4-2, and he does line up on the left-hand side. But again, it's just like if Tuchel comes in and they go to 4-3-3, then he's the odd one out again.
And did you guys see Jonathan Barnett's interview, the Gareth Bale's agent with Sky Sports?
No.
So Jonathan Barnett is obviously he's an elder gentleman, and he's talking about Gareth Bale being the second best player in the world this season.
Oh,
and he says,
shut up.
he says, look, Gareth will stay at Real Madrid until 2022 when his contract's up. I know that he actually says, I know Zidane doesn't like him and doesn't want him, but he will be there unless he's sold for big money. Like Coutinho is in the same position as Gareth Bale.
Yeah, but Coutinho's a lot younger and has a lot to offer. Like Bale's
nowhere near his injury prone.
Bale's a sink.
Yeah, for sure. But they're in the same contractual sort of hole where they both got contracts till 2022. They're both not really wanted by the manager.
The best situation.
And they haven't got a suitor.
The best solution would be if Barca could offer Coutinho for Dybala. That would probably work. That would probably work out for both parties. That would honestly be the best.
We're going to see teams, I think, change the way they conduct business as well next season. In that, a lot of big sides in the last 2 or 3 years have offered big contracts, long contracts to people from 28 onwards, and have found themselves in this financial sinkhole, haven't they? Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. And these are kind of good players, but it's almost becoming scapegoats of the various clubs, aren't they?
Yeah, I totally agree. I think Coutinho's stuck, Sanchez is stuck, Gareth Bale's stuck,
Ozil's stuck.
They're all
what about Conte to Inter? I'm not sure if that's been confirmed as of yet. Spalletti going out the door.
Yeah, very close.
Inter, we've always touted as quite a viable destination. I mean, because they just spend money willy-nilly, don't they? For Mesut Ozil. But does a manager like Conte have a Mesut Ozil in his side?
Not sure.
Not historically.
The chat of the last few days is that Conte's #1 target will be Lukaku. Wanted him at Chelsea, obviously didn't get him, and ended up getting Alvaro Morata in instead because Man United kind of swooped at the last minute, didn't they, for Lukaku? And United might be willing to shift him. And I believe this is coming off the back of Icardi potentially leaving this summer as well.
But then you've got to find a buyer for Icardi, and if Real Madrid get Luka Jovic, then where does Icardi go?
I think there'll be quite a few suitors for Icardi. If Icardi was on the market, I feel like there'll be quite a few suitors.
Who though? If Chelsea were on the market, then sure, maybe.
Bayern?
If United sell Lukaku, maybe then. But I don't know. If Bayern, I think will try and get Timo. It's a very difficult situation. I think at the end of the summer, it's musical chairs, and there'll be one or two people who are left standing up.
And there's a job going at Roma as well, isn't there? Which Jose Mourinho is touted to get.
That's a point.
I mean, they can't wage the same way you can't.
Yeah.
You were linked with Jose. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Get him in.
Celtic lost John McGinn to Aston Villa because we refused to pay an extra $1 million to Hibs. So the idea of having a guy at the club.
This year? You were after a player called John McGinn?
Yeah.
That sounds like such an 80s football, doesn't it?
It just sounds like a regen on Football Manager, but he's a very, very good little player actually. He scored that amazing volley that did the rounds on Twitter, but
no.
Just complete, Texville, USA. So check it out. But the idea of having a guy at Celtic whose last contract was £16 million per annum is just an absolute non-starter. I'd take him in a heartbeat. I'd absolutely take him in a heartbeat, but we will end up with David Moyes.
No, I think aren't you just going to keep Lennon?
No, I don't think Lennon will get the job. But the fact that Celtic have been, they've apparently offered Jose a contract. I like that level of ambition, and that would suggest that they don't see Lennon as a long-term replacement. But the managerial merry-go-round does all of a sudden make next season really, really fun. Not just at Celtic, but we're talking, Poch is going to stay, isn't he? Sarri,
is he?
I think Sarri will stay. I think now, because of the tail end of the season,
but
because of the lack of top jobs.
He did say though, Pochettino yesterday, that if he wins the Champions League, he'll leave.
Sure. What are you reading in between the lines?
No, he literally said that
in his press conference.
It's hard to tell how serious he was, but he was
where?
But he was like, no, he just said if I win the Champions League,
I'll disappear.
I'll pack up and go home.
He said,
what more can I do?
5 years. He said, I would have been here 5 years. I cannot do any more. I'll go home if we win the Champions League.
Was that was he caught up in the emotion of the occasion?
Maybe. That was before the game.
Before the game.
Oh right. Okay.
That was before the game. So Barcelona jobs available.
You could imagine it if he was just I don't think he'll go to Barca. He said so many times. But Bayern, if that opened up, PSG, where of course he was a player.
Allegri leaves.
He was a captain at PSG.
If Allegri leaves though, and Juventus do need a boss, and Poch wins
I
the
feel
Champions
like
League,
the culture that he thrives in, you know, when he
great.
gets players to subscribe 100% to his ways and his methodology, and he prefers younger players, doesn't he, and sort of cultivating them from you know, their formative years. Like that's the complete opposite end of the spectrum to PSG though, isn't it? Like I don't want him to go to PSG to have to massage the egos of superstars and bring in like billion-dollar transfers.
But I think given what he's done this season, he'd have a bit more clout, and also having been a player at the club, he'd have a bit more clout. And of course, as well, we're hearing rumours that the Qatari Investment Authority is potentially going to take a bit of a step back from PSG. And so if he came in, he was like, you know what, I'm not going to make you go out and spend like 200 million on like the best player in the world. I'm going to like take your academy, which by the way is absolutely chock a block with talent, and I'm going to turn them into one of the best clubs like in the world. Like I would be quite tempted by that. Even if I'm happy to spend money, it's always nice if a manager says you don't need to. I will fix this myself.
Yeah, and he could come in and monopolise the French league in the same way Juventus and Bayern have done, where he just hoovers up, and that PSG have started to do to an extent, but maybe not as effectively as Bayern and Juve.
But if you're saying, what more can I do after winning the Champions League? Why do you go to a club like PSG where winning the Champions League defines your season? No, who cares about winning the league now?
Because you do change the club if you win the Champions League there. Like you can imagine him saying like, if he goes to PSG and wins the Champions League, like this is that would be like the most
He'll get to a quarter-final and they'll sack it.
He should go to Juventus. I would and win domestic double, and one Champions League, then go, I'm going home again. And then just go back to Espanyol and never manage again.
Yeah, that'd actually be great.
That would be
Manage
great.
Argentina, win the World Cup.
I can't
retirement.
see. I still feel like it was
Into
more
the
of like
sunset.
a turn of phrase. Like, I just can't see him leaving Tottenham if he wins the Champions
I
League.
can't imagine winning the Champions League though and being like,
what do I do now?
I just can't get the energy up for like another season of going away to Burnley. Like, it'd be like I've won the Champions
League. With no budget.
I've won the Champions League with genuinely a squad. Like I've won the Champions League with Moussa Sissoko starting in midfield, with Kieran Trippier on the right. Like,
who's going to Napoli?
I've literally, like he's a wizard. Like seriously, if he wins the Champions League like that, I'd be like, this is one of the greatest managerial performances in history. I'm out. Bye.
Yeah, so would I.
Fernando Llorente, the plan B. He knew, like, it's only taken 18 months for that plan B to come to fruition. But even that happened. 45 minutes, 13 aerial duels won.
That's outrageous.
What a player.
I don't even know if that includes chest controls. There was a moment where he had about 15 yards of wingage and just went, give me that ball on chest, boy.
Pure
just
Casper Dolberg.
turning Daily Blind into a baby.
You know when you have a small child and you're just keeping him at arm's length? That was what he's doing with Daily Blind's face.
Did you see Casper Dolberg's stats?
Oh, he was horrible.
0 shot, 0 key passes, 4 passes completed.
He was
I don't think there's many.
After what was it, an hour?
I don't think there's many young players whose stock has plummeted in the last 12 months in the same way that.
But we were saying this on the stream
has.
last night. Like I feel like this narrative is maybe strung out a little bit too harshly around Casper. Like he's still got 15 goal contributions in the Eredivisie this season. He scored 11 goals in the Eredivisie.
In limited minutes,
and
actually.
He's played basically the way Ten Hag operates is that he plays Tadic as a false 9/ number 10 in Champions League, and in the Eredivisie, it pretty much exclusively uses Huntelaar and Dolberg in a rotation system.
I'm sure that Ajax won't mind the fact that there's not vultures circulating for Dolberg, especially with what.
Now, he's probably got similar sort of goal contribution numbers to Marcus Rashford. But maybe it's just because, like you say, the hype around De Jong and De Ligt has worked to such an incredible extent for them. So I think it's maybe a little bit harsh. And also, Dusan Tadic has been involved in 50 goals. So other
Neres has had a great
season.
season.
And Van den Beek's involved in 26. So it's kind of like, oh, he's only been involved in 15, 16. But still, as like a sub-20-year-old, it's pretty impressive.
So we started off by talking about how Liverpool are the best side never to win the Premier League, and now we've ended up on Casper Dolberg stats this season. So
navigated away from a really
very good
open and shut question. How long's that been?
Too long.
Long enough.
Bye. No, we're doing quickfire. Quickfire questions time then. Sam Hay says, can I get your opinions on João Felix and his incredibly high value?
Firstly, let's not call him Yao.
Whatever you pronounce it.
Zhao. Well, no, it's just it's that J like Jose Mourinho because it's Portuguese, right? So Yeah, I mean, we're hearing about 100 million euros, which is pretty mental. I would not pay that for anyone coming out of the Portuguese league.
Manchester City have been his leading suitors, right?
It looks that way, but the rumour from Portugal is that they'll only go for him if they can shift Gabby Jesus, which I think is really weird. I don't think they'll let go of Gabby Jesus, seeing his numbers this season have been obscene, and he's just been down a little bit on his finishing. I think that in the next couple of years, you'll probably see him turn into what he's always looked like being, which is a genuine superstar.
Do you think Pep's thinking is, I'm just going to get 100 goals from midfield with Bruno Fernandes? I don't need any other strikers, barring Aguero.
I mean, it would be fun. It seems much more likely to me that they move on Mahrez and then they find
Mahrez is gone.
But I think you bring in if they can find a buyer.
He's gone.
It's going to cost.
I think
so
they'll let him go at
money.
cut price fee as well. You complain in the press.
But I bet his wages are filthy, and also then they've got the issue of Leroy Sané. Like if they let Mahrez go but bring in João Felix, Leroy Sané is going to be like, I'm not doing this for another season. I'm not doing another
Also,
season.
Phil Foden. Well, Phil Fernandes and João Felix come in. Phil Foden's going to be like, what the f*** is going on?
And Rodri.
Rodri.
Because he's barely getting in the team now, and this is in a season where 34-year-old Fernandinho is their starting midfielder. I mean, it's helped that recently Ilkay Gundogan has been playing out of his mind. But those are their midfielders this season. Those two guys are the guys Foden's competing with.
Then KDB back more minutes next season.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably
and Rodri's going to be in. Bruno Fernandes is going to be in.
I don't think they'll sign him, Manchester City. I mean, it makes zero sense. I mean, he is a prodigious talent, isn't he? But
I don't think he's going to go.
I think you'd need another. I think big clubs, before they move for him to that amount of money, the sensible thing to do is give him another year, right, at Benfica.
Because it's not like it's Jadon, it's in a top league.
It feels much more like he might have a great Euros in 2020 and then maybe he gets his big.
Because if he bangs next season again, you're not paying that much more than what is being touted now,
exactly.
in a reasonable transfer market. I do think that the fees and salaries are going to start to plateau a little bit, alluding to what we said earlier about old players just 27, 28 players kind of really getting one over clubs in recent memory. But I mean, he's got over 10 goals in the league, hasn't he? He looks to be their creative spark every time I watch Benfica. Pizzi's still playing well, and is the Brazilian striker still banging for them?
Jonas has only played about 1,000 minutes this season, but I think he's got he's been involved 13, 14 goals. It's more than a goal per 90.
It's like the Eredivisie, isn't it? You've kind of got to temper it with how numbers can distort a player's value.
But very good in the Europa League as well against tough opposition like Eintracht Frankfurt are no joke. Some of the teams they've played have been good. And he's been very impressive.
It was Hakim Ziyech that said the toughest team we've played this campaign has been Benfica, and that was after beating Real Madrid.
Yeah, then he played Tottenham last night. Well done, Hakim. Tamish Bahal says, who do you think is going to win Manager of the Year? Comes off the back of that conversation earlier. We're talking about Premier League Manager of the Year to start with.
Yeah, because I was going to say, in what competition?
For me, it should be Gracia. Yeah, and it's Garcia then Gracia. I think Gracia, just because of what he's managed with a relegation candidate squad, an FA Cup final, and
mad that he's not in the conversation more. To be honest.
Yeah, I think Gracia. That squad is. I think I had them down as a relegation. As one of my relegated sides this year, maybe at the start, FA Cup final, 7th.
Are we trying to predict who will win it? Because
who would you give it to?
Right, who would I? I mean, I think we just at this point we're taking Pep and Jurgen Klopp's kind of genius for granted, and I do think that they'll kind of be dismissed because of the dominance of their side.
I could see Klopp winning.
I'd say Klopp more so than Pep, and Gracia probably. In the Premier League.
Not Nuno. No Nuno. No.
I think Gracia, Poch and Nuno are to me the outstanding candidates outside the top two.
He's Gracia does not have this network that Nuno has at his disposal, does he? He does not have the transfer budget. He has an unfancied squad. He's
cobbled it.
He's found a way of playing with his side. Whereas I suppose Nuno kind of has those riches. Jorge Mendes, that's what edges it for me.
Let's do the same for the Champions League then. Is it Poch? It's got to be Poch, I suppose, isn't it?
Or Ten Hag. Right, has been absolutely fantastic. They had a tough run to get to where they got.
Yeah.
They could easily have gone through. They were seconds away from going through. Yeah, and beating Real Madrid and Juventus away from home is remarkable.
And drawing with Bayern.
Yeah, they didn't lose to Bayern.
The home form's been weird though, hasn't it? 1-2 in the last 6.
Yeah, it's a bit weird, but they're
draws.
But just, I mean, as good as that. I mean, it's been helped by keeping their first 11 fit because like the drop off from their first 11 to the guys beneath them is quite big, and it always is with the smaller clubs. But for Ajax to reach the semi-finals of the Champions League is really staggering. And I think that now people are going to start looking at them a little bit more seriously.
Yeah, unless they get Monaco'd and just get.
Do you think Ten Hag, Barcelona would give him a job at this point? Like after what it is, in my opinion, like too early. But do they double down, take a gamble on a guy who is kind of
the beauty
aligned with their way of playing?
It feels like he goes to
The beauty is that there's a very clear alignment. Obviously, was the Bayern Munich second team coach under Pep Guardiola, and attributes almost all of his tactical nous to Pep Guardiola. If you read any of his interviews, so there is a very clear alignment. But again, I just think it's too early. He's the João Felix of managers.
But a lot of people saying that about Pep when he first came in, when he's promoted from the B side, right? I mean, when Barcelona, they are in a moment of like big transition, aren't they? And upheaval. A lot of people, not Laporte at the moment. Who is it? Who's the president at Barcelona? Anyway, that's beside the point. A lot of people levelling a lot of criticism their way. It feels like they could do a madness, both on and off the pitch this summer.
Yeah, I just don't think Ten Hag will go.
I think he's much more likely to go through an Arsenal or a Dortmund before he gets to Barcelona.
My Champions League manager has to be Poch. Just what a freak. What an absolute freak. Okay. Last one then from Captain Guna says, does this year's Champions League have the best set of matches ever?
Yeah.
Basically, has it been the best Champions League you can remember?
Certainly one of the best. We'll see how the final goes.
United come back, Liverpool come back. Pretty exceptional moments. Obviously, Tottenham's comeback I can think of as the most exceptional.
Ajax having a Cinderella run. Juventus spending 100 million, Ronaldo getting dumped out and being...
that Ajax 4-1 win away at the Bernabeu.
That was amazing. Liverpool beating Bayern away was great.
In like the group stages, Liverpool only just scraping through against Napoli. Alisson making that
on head-to-head.
Yeah.
If you think about it, Liverpool scraped through on head-to-head. Tottenham, how did Tottenham get through? Was it on goal difference or something like that?
Tottenham had a dreadful start. I think did they have 1 point from their first 3 games, and it was a last-minute salvo job against PSV when it went down to 10 men, didn't they? The finalists actually had really rocky,
some great incidents.
Group campaigns. Yeah,
some great incidents. Having said that, if the final doesn't live up to the billing, then maybe not. Like if you think about last year, Cristiano's overhead, then Bale's overhead in the final.
The finals haven't been that
competitive.
They haven't been that competitive, have they, in the recent era? The finals haven't been that competitive. No. Like you've had Real Madrid steamroll a couple of people.
I thought the final last year was really anticlimactic, because Salah went off so early, and then I just found I found it depressing that game.
So dramatic that game. Salah's off injured, the Karius mistake,
for the wrong reasons, for anti-footballing reasons.
Yeah, it was just a bit. I don't know. I thought it was a dull game. To be honest,
the best one-touch finish ever, but.
Yeah, so I will agree. I think probably just this year. Let's do one personal question then before we go from Stuart the Best. Says, what does FD have planned for over the summer?
Ooh, is that personal?
Joe buying a bit of time as he read at the end of that question out, like, oh no, we only plan 2 weeks.
No, we literally have no plans at the moment.
We've got big plans for the Extra Time podcast. I'm sure they'll be announced soon, but we're sort of flirting with the idea of filming that and putting that on YouTube. Next campaign, we're planning for Behind the Headlines Season 2. The fact that Ray Parler's done over 200,000 views is absolute scenes. Even this moth can't believe it. And FDFC is going to take a bit of a sidestep, isn't it? Zach will let you know all about that soon. But let's just do a Euro Football Daily call to action, Pato, and then we'll go because he's done, isn't he?
All right. If you like this, then go and subscribe to Euro Football Daily for similar content, but often treated slightly worse.
Also, Olivia's done a podcast called The Game's Gone Mad. Yeah. And the first episode is live on iTunes and Spotify, so go and check that out.
Thanks very much for watching. Goodbye.